Hey, this is Pam Perry, and right after this, we're going to talk about how to get out there and get known for real, right? So, what are some of the things that I have done personally over the last couple of decades to get out there and get known, where people will say, I see your name everywhere? One of the hints is it has to do with podcasting, but the other thing has to do with SEO. If you don't know what SEO knows, if you don't know, you're going to know after this. So, how to really get out there and get known right after this.
Welcome to the Get Out There and Get Known podcast. Join Pam Perry, veteran PR strategist, Emmy award-winning producer and publisher of Speakers Magazine, who will show you how to crack the code in getting out there to get known. Each week, she either interviews her media friends, PR colleagues, or she just goes solo, offering you strategies on publicity, publishing, and platform building. So listen up to hear how to get booked on media places and on superstar stages. Now, here's your host, Pam Perry.
Hey there. So, there's so much competition today. Not competition like people like there's not enough for everybody, but competition for attention. And one of the things I want to do is like maybe go over some of the things of how to get visibility, how to really learn how to leverage all of the platforms and what really works best for you. And what I can do is just tell you what I do for me and what I do for my clients. So one of the main things, obviously, is understanding the digital landscape. And so this is one of the things that I'll just say that will help you. You can have a lot of content and post everything everywhere, but where's your audience? So when people say, I see you everywhere, it's like I'm typically in the same area all the time. I'm not spreading myself every single place, but usually where my audience is. So let's just say if you're on medium.com, medium.com is primarily written content, and people who like to read will probably go to medium.com. Now, maybe your audience isn't. Medium.com is a place where you can blog, or you may do a LinkedIn newsletter. If your audience likes visual content, like video, then obviously you want to do something like YouTube, TikTok, or Reels, depending on what your skill set is. But I will say one of the things that makes the most visibility instantly, that probably most people love to do, but you got to learn how to do it right. And I'll talk about that, is podcasting, video podcasting. That's why Clubhouse is so, people love Clubhouse. They love the audio app, the social audio app of Clubhouse. And people also love YouTube because they want to see it. And then people also like live, right? They like live. Like I am actually live on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And, you can actually go live on Twitter and things like that as well. But the whole point of really being seen everywhere is to knowing what to do first. And that's probably like the main thing that people are just like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And what I can just say is that don't be freaked out about it. Don't get really, let's talk about some sequences of things. So we had a client that we were working with and they weren't anywhere on Google, right? Nowhere. So the first place we start obviously is the website, buyingyourname.com. So buyingyourname.com is a good place to start. And then from there, you're building it out. You're building it out your about page. You're building out your services. You're building out your email list so that you can have an opt-in page or opt-in give. You're building out your media page, places where you have been in the media. So those are just some of the basic things. Like, within a matter of about a week or so, they actually are showing up on Google, right? But then they also then create. And so this is where people kind of start. They start with the social media. So we have the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, the LinkedIn, and making sure you're putting that URL that you just bought there on all of those platforms with that bio. And that's only important because that gives backlinks without getting too technical, but backlinks, the internet loves when there is a lot of activity on the site and it's updated often and there's a lot of people attached to it. So think about it. What is a lot of people attached to online? A lot of people are attached to the social media sites, the Facebooks, the Twitter, the LinkedIn, Amazon. Those are places. So in each one of those, you want to have like even though that's like their house, you want to like have a little space in their house. So if it's Amazon, you want to make sure that you have your blog in Amazon. If you're an author, you have an author page. Within your author page, you have your bio, and you also have your URL in your bio so that it goes back to your website. And also too, if you have a blog, the blog will cycle through there as well as your podcast. I'll put an example in the show notes of how my author page is, and you will see every time I podcast, it is within that author page, right? The more people that are connected to it, more people can find you, but also too, it raises your search engine optimization. People look at what's on the first page of Google, the first 10 spots. So what is on your first 10 spots on Google? I did this with my branding accelerator the other day, and I said, what is on your first 10? And they would see some things on there. On the last thing that was on, besides like their websites and the Twitter and the social media, was a podcast where they were actually speaking for a half an hour on Constance Arnold's podcast. And I said, oh, look, Dr. Akmel, this is just really recent on this podcast because it was on a podcast network. Podcasting is powerful. My friend, Renita, business partner friend, we are always talking about the power of podcasting and owning your own. Anchor is fine, and all these other things are fine to do the podcast, but you should own your own. Just like you would own your own website, you want to have your own hosting. You want to host your own podcast. So I'll give you a story about a podcast that I did many years ago. 2005 or 6, I guess it may have been. And I was doing Blog Talk Radio. That was like the podcasting game changer. It was really easy. You just get on the phone and you could do all these podcasts, right? And so I was doing all these podcasts. I had a podcast at the time called Chocolate Pages. Chocolate Pages Network was the group that I had, which was like this authors group, African American Christian authors group, and then Chocolate Pages. I was interviewing people like Kirk Franklin, Yolanda Adams, Reverend Brunn, and then I was even at Dr. Rudy, Pastor Rudy Rasmus, Dr. Rudy Rasmus, just Vanetta McGee, and in between, people in between. As well, TD Jakes and that sort of thing, because it was a way for me to promote my clients. So my clients were on this podcast, Blog Talk Radio, early on, and I probably had well over probably 200 or so podcasts on there. Well, I didn't own Blog Talk Radio. And what happened years later, this is 2022, right? All those podcasts are gone. I mean, you show that I spoke to them, but if you try to click them to play them, they're not there. I'm like, what the heck? Well, I didn't own it. It was free. So just warning you, any free platform that you use, it can go away because you don't own it. So you want to have ownership over your own intellectual property, over your own podcasts and things like that. That's one of the ways we're talking about getting out there, getting known. Get out there, get known. Yes, you're sharing content, but make sure you own your content. Even if you're doing something like medium.com, keeping originals of that as well. Doing things like even Thrive Global. Those are the type of things a lot of times people say, well, I was writing for Thrive Global, and then they change the way that they deal with people, right? It's their platform, so they can change the way that they want to do any of these things. So one of the things I want to make sure is that you understand the power of podcasting, owning your own podcast, not using like the free platforms. Even if you use something like Libsyn, you'll look at the URL, you can tell whether you own it or not. And so when I say you own it, it's running through your website, which is a whole thing that it's a whole nother show for another day, but you do need to hire someone that can do that for you. Someone who does the websites, someone who knows how to really, do any coding if you need to do that. If you have a WordPress site, my Ready, Set, Go, Speak program, which is a program that I typically making sure that people learn the basics of this, because if you're just learning it, you're just coming out into it and it's like, I don't know what to do first. So Ready, Set, Go takes you through like step by step some of those things that you'll know, like, I didn't know, but now you know. And you can Google all day, but you need to be in a structure like a membership type of a program where you would talk to people and have questions and things like that. I had to figure all this out myself. Like I told you about the blog talk show mess. I had to figure that out the hard way. And then I also had other kind of apps before that just went away. I had to find out the hard way that ownership is important. I remember I had Friend Feed. Those links are dead. I remember I had something called Posterous. Google Plus is gone. I mean, there's a lot of things that come in the market where it's hot, it's new, and then they decide that they want to sell it or whatever, and then they're gone. Or they want to change the way that they're doing things, they're gone. I did the same thing happen with so many things that you think that, oh, okay, I've got a lot of content here. Next thing you know, you don't. So you want to make sure that you are paying attention to that, uh, especially with podcasting. So the quickest way for people to really get to know you is to really go on a podcast tour. It used to be blog tours, but people love, people are kind of not leery of reading, but it's just easier to listen to a podcast, easier for people to consume the information faster. So if you have a blog tour and you're doing 10 podcasts a month, figure out the shows that are out there and research them, follow them, understand them, learn how to pitch. I teach people how to pitch in the Ready, Set, Go, Speak in my Branding Accelerator. Wash, rinse, and repeat the same type of process. How to pitch, the subject on the line, the bullet points of what you're going to speak in, sending them the one sheet, giving them maybe another podcast that you have. So, or the link to all of the shows that you've been in. If you go to pamperrypr.com/media, you'll see some of the shows that I've been on over the years, and then you'll see some newspaper articles as well. This thing is like, well, I don't know where to start. I don't have a link to show anyone where I've been interviewed. Well, that's where Speakers Magazine comes in. You can go to speakersmagazine.com/get featured. And those are the places where you can have a mini one sheet done for you. You can have a video podcast. The video podcast will then go out on Roku and Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, of course, and it'll go on Apple Podcasts as a video. Yeah. So if you're watching it on Apple Podcasts, hey, because Apple Podcasts does have where you can watch videos on Apple Podcasts as well as listen to them as well. So one of the things you want to make sure is that you are a good podcast guest, right? So people want to book you by looking at listen to your previous podcast, looking at your one sheet, looking at your website. So we want to make sure that we never have a whack website, right? We want to make sure that the website is always good, not just all about you, but what kind of problems you're solving, what kind of things that you are, I guess you said, what kind of entertainment value or educational value. People are going to either listen for entertainment or education, right? So you want to make sure that that comes through and not just like, oh, how wonderful I am, but what's in it for them. Are they going to laugh? Are they going to learn? That's one of the two things. Either they want to laugh or they want to learn. So you want to, and if you could get people to do both, that's even better. If you remember your best teachers, they were the ones that made you laugh, right? As well as learn. So you want to make sure you're doing that. So when you're doing your website and you're putting together your podcast, whether you're creating your own or pitching yourself out to others, those are the things that kind of like get the momentum going as a subject matter expert speaker. And then you want to share. You want to share those links out into your social media, into your LinkedIn newsletter, in your Amazon page. There are just so many different places to share information, but you need to have a hub and a core message. Knowing your core audience, knowing your core message, that builds your brand. That gets you out there. So for me, one of the things that I did early on, and writing is easy for me, so I blogged. I blogged all the time, and then the blogs became podcasts, and then the podcast became video. So it was the same information, but people were consuming it differently. I blogged a long time ago. Again, I didn't own it, was on Blogspot. The problem with doing it on Blogspot, some of my Blogspot blogs are gone. I don't know what happened. Some of them are there, but I guess maybe they got hacked. I don't know. But like I said, I'm telling you, so this doesn't happen to you. Don't learn the hard way. Learn from a coach, learn from someone, a mentor, learn from someone who has been there, done that. That is so important. I had a figuring it out is so costly. You can really shorten the curve by really getting in like a membership program, like a Ready, Set, Go, Speak, that really helps you uh, just know help you understand what you don't know, right? Like it's like I don't even know what I don't know, but at least you have like a 30,000 view, and then you can kind of go in and say, okay, well, this is what I need first, second, third, and fourth. Oh, this is why I need this. This is why I need that. And it really puts together your whole marketing plan for you to get out there, get known, stay booked and busy. So for me, people will say, "Oh, I heard of you. I saw your podcast. I saw your live. I saw your YouTube." And a part of it is knowing how to tag them, how to really organize your information, how to have show notes, how to do backlinks, how to really do synergy energy partnerships or joint ventures and things like that. How to create your email list and using not constant contact. I used them probably about 20 years ago. Using something like Active Campaign is really good. You can go to pamperrypr.com/products and see all the different tools that I use. If you have a membership, I use Click, which is one of the properties that I use as well. Definitely payment gates and things like that are really part of your systems. Don't want to overwhelm you, but this is all part of getting out there and getting known and being known as a business to get booked and busy, because you could get out there and get known and be famous, but you can't get booked because you don't have the foundational pieces. And I find that with so many people, they're not getting paid to do anything, even though they're seen everywhere, but they don't have a system. They don't have a team. And those are some of the foundational things that I just try to teach people. I said, I'm on Clubhouse and it's fine. And I do this podcast. I said, but every single day, people are signing up on my email list. People are either buying or purchasing some of the products, becoming members, and I service them. And so they're getting results. So that's part of the thing, is that you want to make sure that you're getting results. So the other part of your website should be, your client reviews, things like that are really important. If you look on LinkedIn, you'll see where I have recommendations, and I probably have like maybe close to 200 recommendations. Obviously, I've been in business a lot longer, but you should have some. You should have a few. If you've been in business for a while, it's like, who likes you? Have you done anything for anybody? So, most people won't tell you, you know, if you do a good job, but they will probably broadcast if you do a bad job. So make sure that you do ask people for reviews and recommendations, because that's so important. When you want to get on podcasts, one of the best things you can do is reach out to the host directly. Ask them that, basically pitch them and tell them why you would like to be on their show. You listen to their show and give them set up like a show for them and say, I can talk about these 3 things. That's it. I can talk about, no, don't make a whole list, don't make a whole narrative, and they can't, people are scanning. So really give them a good example of some of the things that you can talk about. And if you're an author, and this is one of the things that I will say, you have the book is in Amazon and all the different places. Please make sure that you have a book trailer. When someone like a publicist will do a press release for you, they're going to put together the press release, and it'll have some pictures in there, obviously the book cover, but it'll also have, if the publicist knows we're doing, a book trailer. And the book trailer is just like a movie trailer. It kind of teases about the book. So please have that. Who I use for my persons that does their speaker reels or book trailers or anything video related. If you go to speakersmagazine.com, you'll see the new video they put together for our 5 years. Reel, I guess you would say, is Bobby Ivory, ivorycoastmedia.com. ivorycoastmedia.com is who we use to put together book trailers, and they're brilliant. Judge Leonia Lloyd had a great book trailer. And then also doing videos and things. Dr. Geneva, for all of my clients, I usually set the video needs. I have them go to Bob Ivory. He does a really good job putting together like the TED Talk speaker reels for Nikichi. He even did her shows and things like that. So it's real important to if you know that you don't have that skill set, to find someone. I went through a whole lot of people to find the people that I use in my business, for virtual assistants, for accounting, for video, for sales, administrative. Those are the kind of resources that I would share with my membership community, so they don't have to take years to find the right people. I say these are the people I vetted and sourced. These are really good people to do. So being visible, making sure that you research the shows, really determine what type of shows you want to go on. And please, if you don't listen to the show, don't pitch the show, because you can pitch a show and the host will say, you know, we don't have guests on the show. It's only just me. It's a solo podcast, which is fine, which is their right. But don't put your show saying I'll be a great guest when it's like we don't even have guests, right? So you want to make sure that that does not happen for you. The other thing that is really important, I think, when you're trying to get out there and get known, is to sow seed. So when I first started out, one of the things that I did is that I would promote. Well, I'm a publicist, but I like promoting anyway. Again, my name is Pam. I'm a promoter, amplifier, and a marketer. But what I did is I would spotlight other people on my platforms at the very beginning. And these weren't even people, these were people that were kind of like collaborative people that I was working with. And that really came back. Um, it builds relationships. You know, relationship is a currency that we have to build. And so if you are wanting to get out there, get known, but you're never really inviting other people on, whether you have a summit like Nicole Roberts Jones, she does her summit. She's doing Rich in Your Niche Summit .com, richinyournichesummit.com. She's doing that, and she's inviting people like Dee Marshall and Tawana Burrows and things like that on her podcast. These are friends of hers, and they've done things together, collaborative. That's one way. If you have a group that you know, like, and trust, and they know, like, and trust you, you work together, and that builds momentum for you. And that's so important. That's something I probably have to teach on a whole nother podcast, but it's really about just having a kind heart, being courteous, respecting people, understanding their value. They get to know you, you get to know them, and that's so important on any of that. So when people meet me in person, they say, you're just like you are online. Well, it's because I'm authentic. I mean, what else could I be? I don't know how people can be one way online and then they meet someone else and there's someone else. I think that's too much energy to try to be different people at different times. Just be yourself all the time. That's probably easier. But there are some people that like to portray certain things a certain way. I have never built my business like that. What you see is what you get. That's how I really roll. But I will say that really building authentic relationships with people online, and really making sure that you are uh, cross-pollinating your services. Not everyone can do everything. Um, you can always ask for support, ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness. Actually, it's a sign of being smart, to know that you're going to need some support and need some help, because you can't run your business just all by yourself. That's not a business. That's a hustle when you're doing it by yourself. So if you have a team and people that support you, that's more of a business. So I only want to come on just for a minute to really talk about getting out there, getting known, doing podcasts, doing the blogging, doing the videos, tagging things right, building a website that's not whack, one that works, one that basically, too, has all the different tabs on it, so that people, when they are doing a Google search, they find great things about you. All right. So that's one of the main things. Again, if you have any questions, my Ready, Set, Go program, that is down there. I really encourage you to take a look at that, because that's one of the flagship programs, the membership programs that I have, that really helps you get it all together so you can get ready, you can set and go, right? You ready, set, go, and do all the things there that you need. I give you all the templates and the checklists and the cheat sheets. There's a membership form in there, and it's just really what I feel like, if I were just starting, what I needed to get out there and get known, that's probably where I would go. because it's just all there, and it's from a publicist who's been trained to do this. This is what I do. This has been my life for the last few decades, and there's a whole book in there of different sample of press releases that are done. EPKs are in there, electronic press kits are in there, samples. So sometimes you just need to know what it is that you need to do just to see a sample of it, and you could go on and really like just crush it, right? Just really crush it. Get out there and get booked and busy. So with that, I thank you all for joining. Make sure that you subscribe. Go to Ready, Set, Go, Speak. Take a look at that. There's the 7-7 challenge there where you can test it out. And the other thing too, all of the notes are in here. If I talk really fast, it's because I'm just so excited about what I do. But really make sure that you evaluate and research the podcast that you want to go on. Make sure that you are very, very, how would I say the word, keep in touch with the podcast host. Make sure that you share that podcast. Make sure that you also do the things that you would do for anyone, to be courteous, say thank you. You know how your mom said, always say thank you. So making sure that you're doing that as well. All right. So with that, I will talk to you later. I'm Pam Perry, and I am out.
You've been listening to the Get Out There and Get Known podcast, brought to you by PamPerryPR.com, where you'll get insider tips on how to build your platform, pitch the media, and promote yourself with confidence. Head over to PamPerryPR.com and get the exclusive video training on the 7 must-have marketing materials you need before you pitch in order to be considered in media places or superstar stages. PamPerryPR